Ladies and gentlemen, party people, book lovers, and humans, come one, come all. Welcome to Bearded Darkness. We're live, and it's a special night, so I put on my special goggles for this wonderful, special, wonderful, again, I'll say it twice, author, my buddy, Tim McKay. How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm pretty good, man. It's been one heck of a day, but, excited to be here.
What happened today? I have no idea. You'll have to tell everybody.
I posted something that people seem to like, I guess. I don't know. It got reposted a bunch. I guess I said something about reposting in it, so I think people just are very obedient. If you say repost this, they repost it. They don't even read it or anything. It's weird. It's just Twitter's a weird place.
So what was it? What happened today? What was today marked the beginning?
Today was the launch of the Fall of Selvandrea. There we go.
If I had music to cue that moment there, I would have done that.
We need the team from SFF Insiders, that epic music from the cover reveal. I need to get that track off of Bob. That was a cool.
You know how like comedians always have that right hand man for those crazy and quirky sounds.
Yep.
Somebody makes a joke and they have to throw the perfect sound in. I think I just
comedy DJ on the sideboard. Yeah,
I need my wife to commit, and she's going to have to do the fun sounds. Like those moments can't be taken for granted anymore. We need to chime in.
You can build her like a side station off of that one you're building in the backyard. That's done now, right? Is that ready?
Well, thank you for asking, man. I picked up the paint today, and my wife's not a huge fan of it. It's a blue. It's like a light blue, and she'll be surprised when it gets on the walls how much she loves it. She just don't know it yet. Anywho, man, seriously, huge congratulations for your release day, and it's not your very first one. So what is the feelings leading up? And then, kind of right now, is it a feeling of, I've completed something? Is it a feeling of I'm now nervous because my baby's out in the wild?
It's, like you said, it's not exactly my first rodeo. So I actually it feels very familiar. I think a lot of the tension, that's the nice thing about how this has played out, is that a lot of the nervousness and tension just isn't there this time around. But the thing is, it's been such a long wait. I mean, compared to how long you normally wait to publish a book, it hasn't been that bad. But I took down my first two books back in January.
Yes.
Right. So it's been that, that's the wait. That's a good, 9 months, it's been just shy of 9 months since I took the books down.
Just so we don't dive into it super quick, we're going to cover that. And that has a message to it that I think will resonate with people who don't even think they'll ever pick up another book. That's something that is human to the core, and we'll get there. And I'm very excited. I'm mostly excited about that. But we're going to talk. I'm going to give you an introduction. Canadian author. He's from Canada, right? Or were you born in Canada?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Ottawa, Canada.
Oh, sure. He's from Canada, pure 100%. That was my awful Canadian accent right there.
I always joke I've never met a Canadian with a Canadian accent.
I heard the best Canadian. Gordy Horton. I'm Gordy Horton. I think that's the most brilliant Canadian name ever. Anyway, I'm sorry.
There are some great Newfie accents for sure, but the
guy that did that one
it's very few and far between, I find.
The guy that did the Gordy Horton was the actor from I can't remember. I'll be here for 20 minutes trying to think because my brain doesn't do that anymore. Canadian author. This is number. I know that you took them down, but officially you've done the publishing release date thing 3 times now?
Yeah, officially this is number 3. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll explain that more as we get into the conversation for you guys that are wondering. And sorry, my head just went blank there. I love that. I don't talk to a lot of people from Canada, and I feel like it's the exact same as the United States. There's not much of a difference other than a border. So tell us, what is it?
Well, I mean, like you said, a boot or like we just say about, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, a boot. There's so many of those. I have members up in Canada.
Yeah, we get so much of our culture from you guys. That's you know, they're the only difference is we're a little more passive. You know, we're the guys who just sat back and said, let's see what happens. You know.
Yeah, but both languages in Canada are official languages of the country, right? English and French, right?
French, yeah.
That's very different than the United States.
Yeah, as opposed to mostly English and then some Spanish, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Si, senor. All right, dude. So I know that's the next thing I was getting to. You know, that's probably my favorite part ever of doing this, other than talking to authors. That the interaction, but it's also somewhat overwhelming, and I like that because that means more people are here. But let's get to it. Ken, he was the first. He's been the first one the last few times. He's committed, man. He's shown the support. Good. It's so awesome. What's going on? He says, I hope you had the launchiest of days.
Thanks, Kenneth. If anyone's seen, this guy does some awesomely epic fan art, and the art he did for the Fall of Selvandrea, on point. Captures the vibe perfectly. I was so impressed. You've seen this, right, Matt?
No, dude. When you talked about posting your cover reveal today, I realized that I didn't do my post for the cover reveal today, and I feel like I've been absent in my own life today. I don't even understand what happened. So would you please fill me in?
Well, actually, it's probably in your Discord if you have a second screen.
Oh, I sure do. That's what we do live.
So
we have so
up,
many seconds.
The fan art page, the fan art channel in your Discord, and I'm pretty sure I posted them there.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most beautiful thing ever. I have no idea what's going on in Discord, so I absolutely. Oh, hold on. Is this it? Here we go. I'll know it when I see it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. You'll know.
While I'm trying to find it, talk about the book. So the Fall of Selvandrea. Did I say it right? Is that how you wanted it to be said?
Selvandrea,
I love that.
Yeah, I caved a little bit. It's funny. People who read the first two books, one of the consistent comments I got was pronunciation guide, please. And I respect that. I really do. So I added one to the book. So the Fall of Selvandrea has a pronunciation guide, and the first, I think Selvandrea I leave for a little further down. The first thing I pronounce is in the series title, you've got the Dreymare. So the Dreymare, because it's called the Dreymare Chronicles. That's the name of the overall series. And then Selvandrea is the name of the city. You encounter it a few times over the course of the story, and then in the third part, it really becomes central, and you can kind of guess, sort of, maybe kind of, by the title where that's headed. I really wanted to have a sort of the fall of Troy or the fall of Rome vibe to that title, you know.
It's very influential. I mean, those stories, that time frame, things that come from that speak to people, especially, I don't know. I know it translates to me very well. It speaks to me, just the kind of power struggle in that time on Earth. One second, I'm kind of here we go. I'm saving the images because these are dope, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Like again, not to go on a total segue here, but
that is what we're doing, man. I love that.
Kenneth's got a whole bunch of art for Sledge, for Nick Horvath, and I saw that and I was just like, oh, this is so cool. And then just in passing, Kenneth and I start chatting. He accepts a copy of the book, and then he makes an off comment about maybe doing some fan art for my book, and I'm thinking, oh.
Did you see the one that he did? It was me and Sledge in it. And,
yes, I did.
Dude, it took me like a whole day to notice it, but I had no idea Sledge was in my hands, I believe. Either way, Ken, I'm going to call you Ken because we're buddies.
I called him Ken, and then I realized, wait, I've always just called him Kenneth, so I hope.
Let us know in the comment if you go by Kenneth, like strictly, or do you go by anything else? Anyway, here's our ode. Let's pay homage to Kenneth.
Yeah, check that out.
That
is that wild or what?
That's a whole nother level of, that's not doodling.
No,
that's something I could never do. I have no artistic talent as far as drawing, and that is spectacular.
Yeah. And then
who's that funny guy with the keyboard? Who is that?
Matt, did you see the videos of that?
Of you smashing the keyboard? Of course I did. I watch all your stuff. Yeah. Of course. And I
So
forget
when I
that
saw
you're.
that, I was dying laughing. Like even his caricatures of me are just on point. Like that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
There's zero question who that is. Like
Yeah,
that's my first time seeing the picture, and I caught the reference because I seen your video. But
yeah.
that takes talent for something to be just recognized so instantly. I feel like I miss. Oh, 1 second here. Brain is failing me already.
All
We
good.
have so I'm gonna say wonderful job, Kenneth. All right, Snow, it's so good to see you here, Professor. Why does she call you Professor Tim McKay?
Well, so as of this week, I am now a part-time professor at Algonquin College here in Ottawa.
Dude,
Um,
I missed that. I had no idea. That's so awesome.
well, it was very last minute. So really, until yesterday, it was kind of tentative. But and so for my first chance to actually meet the class that I'll be teaching is this next Wednesday. We ended
What
up
subject?
editing.
Hell yes.
Yeah. So the long story short is after my master's, I went to this college for this program, and this was my absolute favorite course. This
And
is
now
their
you're teaching it.
substantive and literary editing course, and it is all about editing in the publishing industry. And some of it is about plain language editing, some of it is about developmental editing and fact checking tools, and getting credentialed from editing organizations, and all of that just packed into a single very fun, very engaging, very useful course, like by far the most useful course in the program. And the current professor had to go on leave for at least a month, they're guessing. And they were in a bind. It was a very last minute thing. So they reached out and said, "Hey, Tim, do you want to do this?"
So I'm glad I didn't know before the stream because you're getting my raw opinion. I am
Well,
so happy for you, dude. That is like the dream kind of. I mean, that's what you are into.
Oh, it really is. While I was taking the program, one of my professors, Colin, constantly, we talked about the possibility of me coming to Algonquin and teaching at some point. By the time, I was in this program as a much older student than most of the other students that were in the program.
That's all right.
Yeah, and I mean, and coming from other studies I'd done before too. I think he was kind of saying dude, you should be teaching one of these courses, and I kind of just always passed it off. I still feel very new to a lot of the book publishing world.
Well, you have experience. I mean, you have real experience.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is now, when he brought these ideas up 2 years ago, I thought, let me get some experience under my belt beyond just academic editing, because the only editing experience I had before that was, editing university journals, which is it still requires a lot of the same skills, but in a very different concentration, So whereas now I can go to these students and say, so here's what the editing process, here's what self-publishing looks like, here's what querying looks like. I've edited query letters for other authors before. It was just, this couldn't be a cooler opportunity, and it came so out of the blue,
My instant thought is how lucky that school is to snag you up, because you have the experience to truthfully say, this is what it is. It's not, we're not guessing. We're not looking at numbers. We're not, going off somebody else's experience. This is real experience, and that is something to be gained, man. So congratulations, dude. And they've gained somebody that's going to do a wonderful thing for their school and their students. John, it is time now. It's that time exactly. You're right on the dot. Tim, where are your pit vipers? Yeah, I know. That's what I asked him. I have to send him a pair, because next time we do this, we'll have to both have the pit vipers.
That would be actually, but
what
something we'll correct next time around.
What did you think about the swing action? Because that's why I paid like $25 for these.
I was going to comment while you were doing it, but I was midstream. But yeah, that's pretty.
That's
awesome.
90 as shit, right? That's the most 90 thing I've done all day.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a good look too. It's a good look.
Mike, what up,
Mike Malman?
I'm not the only bald guy here. That's what's up.
EL. EL, yeah, there we go.
A guy that I don't think will ever go bald. He's got a great head of hair on him.
Yeah, he does. Okay, you know what? Sure. I will actually. I do have one without the strips. So there you go.
Okay, so
Fall of Selvandrea.
I've been waiting for you to do that because I'm going to brag. Can I brag?
Yeah.
I got the version before it even had the cover on it.
The original arc right there. Yep.
So when I got this in the mail, I was not expecting it. I think you had said that you were going to send it when it was done or something. It was like maybe a couple months later. So I got the package and I'm like, whatever's in this, if it's a book, that bad boy's got some heft to it. And I opened it and I feel very lucky to be a part of the process that we're both so passionate about, but I'm seeing you do. And I'm just very happy that you've allowed me to ride along with you, man.
Yeah, you probably more than almost anyone, except maybe a few of the guys that we're probably going to be chatting with soon. You've been there kind of pretty much from the start of my process. So you've seen this thing evolve into the book it now is.
It's beautiful, dude. It is. It's so beautiful. So speaking of that, like, if you could have a few guys or a couple guys here, who would they be?
Well, I was thinking probably Michael Christian and maybe James Rollins, if we could get him.
Dude, let's just leave now. Me and James and you will just have coffee and
we'll summon the dead Michael Christian, the late Michael Christian, and then James Rollins, Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, James Rollins, there's an author you and I connected on, right?
And you would nerd the shit out on some James Rollins.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The Sanguine series, the Order of the Sanguine series was so good.
Yeah. Okay. So jokes aside, we were thinking about this, and two of the other guys who have been there with me from the get-go of this process, and they've even accepted art copies of my original redrafts of the first two books. They've been there the entire evolution of this book into what it is now, and that would be Timothy Wolf and Isaac Anderson, and they both agreed to be here tonight. So.
Magic.
Isaac,
hello.
Well done.
So, welcome to the stream, the wonderful Timothy Wolf and the wonderful Isaac Anderson. How are you both doing tonight? Timothy, you can go first.
I gotta say, I'm living the dream. It's awesome to be here for Tim, who I don't remember how we became friends. I really think it was just because we're both named Tim. But it's been a good run.
I think it was here. I think it was, through Matt, and then just the fact that we were both Tims in the comments. And we've been writing the comments of every book streamer we can find ever since.
And I would say one of the first 10 people I ever had that like followed me as far as X or Twitter go was Timothy Wolf. He's been here probably the longest. I would say Tim's been here the longest out of what I can remember. He's just that community guy, man. So.
It's actually really crazy to think how long it's been, because I feel like it hasn't. But sometimes you look at the date and you're like, oh, yeah, that is.
It's been like a year and a half.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It's like a year and a half isn't crazy long, but it doesn't seem like it's been that long. But I just passed like the 1 year thing. I'm going to do something for that. But
well, when you're looking behind, a year and a half is a long time. So I mean, it definitely goes.
That's true.
You were pointing out Tim's book without a cover. I don't know if I have you beat. I have the very original Rise of Dreska from Amazon.
Yeah, I have the Rise of Dreska, and then I don't remember the name of the second one. You have to remind me, Tim. I have that one as well.
Yeah. So I bought this, and
yes.
I told Tim I was going to read it, and Tim's like, "No, don't read that. I'm going to make the whole new book." So I just it's a good conversation piece.
So I think it's. Again, there's a specific part where we'll start talking about that, but it's got such a great message, and like I said, we'll get into that because it really moved me. All right, so for those who aren't familiar, talk about the Fall of Selvandrea, and what I mean is give a look at the synopsis, this genre, some subgenres if you feel they fit, and maybe the appropriate age range if there's some younger or potentially. Younger people that may want to pick it up and just kind of dive into it.
Yeah. What's the cutoff?
Sorry, say again, Isaac?
What's the cutoff? How old? Once you get to
That's
40.
Tough. I mean, see, the problem, I genuinely struggle with this because my uncle showed me Gladiator when I was 8 years old. Yeah. My aunt had the movie Species, and she was living with us at the time when I was a lot younger. So around that time, I was watching Species and Gladiator. That's not a good start.
It's a great movie. I don't care how old you are.
You dipped your toe in the water pretty, but I'm the same way.
Yeah. So well, let me put it this way. The Fall of Selvandrea is dark but clean fantasy. And so it's funny, and I'm working on the sequel right now, and a few little curse words slip in here and there, and it's so minimal, and that's about as much as it gets. And there's even fantasy swear words, you know, that you encounter more in the first word, and that's as far as it goes in that domain. You know, it's clean. It's not even, I wouldn't even call it steamy, let alone spicy. Like, it's just pretty much minimal in that domain. There's hints of romance, but it doesn't get intense by any stretch. The only thing is the violence, and there's some intense violence, but it's definitely not grotesque. You know, I think most who've read it could say, you know, I saw a review recently, and they said, okay, this is, you know, it's intense. It's even scary. There's some scary, intense violence that you should brace for. And if you read the prologue and the first chapter, you'll know if you can handle the rest. That's what I tell you.
Yes.
You know,
I think that was perfect.
Yeah, if you read that first chapter, you know what's coming from that.
I was never grossed out.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
I missed that. Do you show it as YA, or you just kind of say it's fantasy and figure it out yourself?
Well, so I mean, on Amazon, I list it as 15 and up, and I think that's
okay. Yeah.
I think that's fair. You know, I was reading a little more intense than this at a younger age, but I think that's a safe bargain, you know.
As a father, I don't have an issue with violence. I have an issue with dramatic, over the top, like sexual or graphic violence that is more than it needs to be. Like let's say Gladiator, for instance. I don't know that at 8 years old, I don't have an issue with my 8-year-old watching that, because there's violence, but it's very much what happened on this earth to people in that time. So you can only hide them from stuff like that, and for a little while, and then they're eventually going to figure it out and realize that kind of stuff happens. Now, again, saying that, I'm not saying I'm going to let my kids just dive into all this violence, but I think there's a certain threshold depending on what it is.
And a lot is with presentation too. You can capture the intensity, you can capture the horror of it, even without being so graphic that it's just gratuitous, right? And I think that's more what I aim for, you know. And there are those who try to capture the graphic side of it more, and that has its own audience. You know, I would say that has its place and that has its audience, and that's just not what I was aiming for. You know?
Yeah, that's the line I never feel comfortable crossing, because it's like, you know, I feel like.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, I would actually say that both of you guys, both Tim and Isaac here, you know, I think we like each other's stuff, partially, in part at least, because, you know, it has that similarity. We cross some intense lines, you know. I could say that for both of your books, you know. There's some intensity in there too, kind of the same feel, without, again, the gratuitous side that we see in maybe some more grimdark stuff. And again, it has its place. It's just not what we.
Your characters get into realistic situations that call for realistic actions to happen in a way that's realistic. I don't know. I think that you're saying it great. Grimfell. So a couple things. First, man, 100% humbled thank you so much for sending that. That means the world. Second, also 10 out of 10 book.
Nice.
That's what I'm looking at.
I'll take that.
That is so cool, bro. It has to feel good.
It's my current. I should have it done by Sunday. That's my goal.
Nice.
You have to take chunks out of it.
It's a chunker,
yeah. You have to, and I'm a John Gwynne freak, dude. So I know long books. And, you know, Wheel of Time. I love Wheel of Time. So I have my way of getting through big books like that, and I think the story becomes even more rich through a longer book. I just love the building of characters and world building.
Yeah,
you can't do with 200 pages.
What'd you say, Tim?
What's the final word count?
For the Fall of Selvandrea, it's about 171,000.
That's for the whole. Oh, okay. That's actually not too.
It's not that bad. I mean, it comes to about 540 pages in the formatting I went with.
And I think it comes out to 540 because you do the font a little bit bigger, right?
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is I'd have to check even the font. I might have it here.
The only downside is if Mike Molman's here, he's not going to read it because it's over 5.
Yeah, Mike has his 500-page cutoff. I've convinced him, though, because I originally published the first two parts. It counts as 3 books in one. You know, if we call this an omnibus just for Mike, I think we can convince him to read it. So that's my strategy.
I think Mike's issue is if it's big enough to hurt him if it falls on him. I think that's his true cutoff.
Well, now see, I just
met
met Mike in real life, and you know, if he was like super short and you know the fall between like a shelf and his head, I would maybe agree with you, but I don't think it would hurt him. He's not short. He's a little bit taller than average, I would say. So he's not fearing no book, man. He's just got a skinhead like me, and he knows that bad boy will get like smudged, and I'll have to shine that bad boy. So the last thing I was going to say, Grimfell, I've been checking your stuff out because you've been showing I've noticed you just showing support, and dude, guys, you should go check his YouTube channel out. He does music, and if you look at the profile picture he has up, you'll get a sense of the kind of music. It's kind of like techie with metal. It's incredible. So I have to shout it out while he was up here because I'm digging it, man. Keep doing what you're doing. That's wonderful. All right, Chance Dillon, tuning in. We're glad you're here, Chance. Another one showing wonderful support lately. It's so cool to see new faces and what people are reading and what they're passionate about. All right. So did you go into a bit of a synopsis of the Fall of Selvandrea? Have you done that yet?
I think we got past the genre. I think it was dark flintlock fantasy. Yeah, so I'll stretch that out a little bit just to say, it's dark, clean flintlock fantasy. So you have a mix in this case of kind of sword and sorcery fantasy with some flintlock muskets and a Napoleonic era age ships, and one of the illustrations in the book kind of gives you that feel of ships at sea. That's very much the era I was going for. And so it's the style of the warfare to a point. I have some fun there. It's a fantasy world. It's my world. I have a very clear, conception in my mind of how this world got to where it's at. So I like playing around with some of those lines where you have some like medieval weaponry making it in to that era. Mm-hmm. I have, including in the final battle, there's some really fun stuff that happens there that I mentioned to one early reader, and they were like, "Wait, what?" And then I explained the actual thing that happens. They said, "Oh, okay, that's actually really cool." So they were fine with me crossing some historical lines, but you'll see it when you see it.
I love that. So
lots of dragons and monsters, and beyond that, it's you got some tropes like found family and horror. Monster horror is one of the vibes I was going for in several chunks of it. And then just a lot of chaos, which is by design. Yeah, one of the themes I wanted to wrestle with in it was characters who are thrown into a world where they have very little agency, finding that agency for themselves. And that's a process. It's something that you have to earn. It's not something you sometimes fighting evil is fighting confusion. It's fighting forces that you don't yet understand and what that looks like. And that was kind of the fun. So brace yourselves. You're not going to know everything right away because the characters don't, and you'll discover it as you go along. And that's very much what I was going for.
I love that. Tim, if you're okay with Tim McKay, if you're okay with it, and if you don't mind people seeing it first here and not first in the book, you want me to throw the illustrations up?
Sure, let's do it. I've thrown them everywhere else.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were cool with it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Give me 3 seconds, guys. I wish it was quicker than it is, but it isn't. Almost done. All right, so these, by the way, are part of the bigger story that I absolutely love. So here's one. Come on.
I saw that one.
Very first illustration. Yeah. So these are all by Joe Requeza. And when I reached out, I'd seen a few of his black and white illustrations, but much simpler, to be honest, just very bare bones. Most of his illustrations I'd seen were the book cover, the color book, illustrations for book covers and so on. And he had a style I really liked. So I reached out, I got a quote from him. I said, let's do it. I'm hoping for 3. And I told him the concepts for all 3. And thanks, Graph. Yeah. Awesome review that Graph left on Goodreads just, I think yesterday. And hey, Ashley, Mrs. Beard.
There's so many comments. I'm just going to start throwing up people shouting you out while you're talking about your
I'll keep going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so anyways,
right choice.
Say again?
Right choice, Joe. Dude, knock it away.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's the thing is, the goal was to work towards an illustrated cover. But there were some obstacles that got in the way of that. Most of it was just timing and uncertainty about when, the possibility of another artist when there would be an opening. We had a rough idea, but it ended up being even further than we originally thought. So in the middle of that, Joe Requeza does these 3 illustrations for me. Incredibly fast turnaround, incredibly fair price. And I was just the turnaround for this was so quick. We made a few quick adjustments. Even that was quick and honestly kind of cool. I've heard Jeff Brown is like this too. He'll sort of let you in on the process. And so something fun about this character here is that Joe used his own hand for the hand reaching for the sword. And he had to adjust it a little bit because just the way he photographed his own thumb made it look really weird, funny and long and weird and awkward. And neither of us noticed it until someone else did. And we thought, okay, we better change this quick. So it's funny, the behind the scenes stuff. But I mean, that's just the point. He's so attentive to detail and just how this evolved into what you see here. Just incredible. And now the fun thing is I'm seeing other authors start to take up Joe Requeza for these black and white illustrations. So I just had another author who I can't name, but just showed me 2 that are coming up for their work. And oh my gosh, like Joe is just so talented.
The thing, a couple things. What you said about him and being a cover artist or an illustrator is a job that I think in order to truly succeed in a way that I think a lot of them want to, you need people to say what you just did. Wonderful to work with. The turnaround time was unbelievably fast.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah. And the thing is you were just telling the truth, but that was marketing for him. And I love that because he did a wonderful job, dude.
When people tell me they're going to work with him now because of what they've seen, like this image got him, I know because people have talked to me about, okay, I'm going with him. And I'm like, yes, please do. Like that makes me so happy because he deserves it. Like this, again, he just went above and beyond, and that's the thing too. Us as authors, we need to be supporting the artists who are doing stuff like this for us. It's huge. It's a huge part of this community is that feedback between each other and supporting each other. It's the only way we all rise.
There's the next picture. 2. Sorry, guys, by the way, when I throw comments up, it covers your face. I don't mean to do that.
No one's here for my face, I promise you. It's all good.
So, if that doesn't look like an epic, scary, terrible, fearing time at sea, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I'm actually looking into getting metal prints of these done, and I'm hoping to have them behind me for future interviews. But
what was you saying, Tim? Tim Wolf?
You have the same artist as John Palladino? Because that looks like Buzzard's Bowl in a sense.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, they're different guys.
Gotcha.
I know what you're saying. They do kind of look a little similar, but I think they're 2 different art styles. Yeah, no, they're 2 different art styles, I think. But I know where you're getting at. As a huge John Palladino fan, I can see that myself.
There you go.
All right, so that was 2. Yeah. This one, dude, come on, get out of here.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is this one because you look at his hair. You look at the monstrous presence in the background in the middle of kind of the forest, and you see the highlights of his hair. You see the buttons on his jacket, and you're like, wow, this is a black and white picture that it didn't have to have vivid colors.
It has so much depth and detail. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. So this was the first one he delivered to me, and I was just shocked, absolutely shocked. And you can see what he's starting to deliver for other authors. I think Josh Walker has a few out now. We were joking back and forth with each other recently about being Requeza brothers because of these awesome black and white illustrations he's doing for us. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Hey David, thanks for coming out.
David Badurina, I hope I'm saying that right. I probably said it way too much accent, but we're getting there. Willow Wraith Press, what's going on? Glad to see you. Beer's here to sell. Okay, Bill, what's up, Bill? I wasn't sure if that was you commenting through. I don't know if anybody else does, but anywho, I'm glad to see
usually Bill or Dewey, right? Who are
yeah.
So
that's. I was hoping that wasn't a wrong assumption. I guess is what I'm trying.
No, you're
to say.
good. Yeah.
Anyway,
they're doing.
What was you saying, Tim?
No, you're totally right.
I love that. Bill's here to celebrate Tim in the fall of That's it's okay.
That's accurate. That's an
The
alternate.
Fall of Shalamalan.
Let's see if I
The
can
surrounding
actually.
nations, I'll just call it that. It's much simpler.
Selvan Shalanga Ding Dong. That's a take.
That's the thing about fantasy pronunciations is, I wanted to give something concrete, in the pronunciation guide. So there is an official pronunciation, but I've also always been of the opinion that, a book becomes yours once you have it, and so you read what you read.
Sometimes the name doesn't even stay the name. My wife, if she reads a fantasy, which is not very often, if it starts with a D and she can't pronounce it, it's David. Like instantly, she reads that name as David. And I thought that was a cool take. Like I don't do that. I go through the name.
I like that.
But I
use nicknames for all my most of my characters just to try and make it easier for people. So that's how I get around that too.
It's not a fantasy if it doesn't have names in it that you're like, was that made up? Obviously, like that's obviously made up, but that's the best. I love that. That's part of the creative process is being able to not only name like your world, your continents, but also your characters, give them the feel that you want to give them.
Well, if you go back to that first illustration,
absolutely.
That dude's name, Valderis Draskar.
That's easy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely an epic fantasy name that I think it captures the mood of what you're about to get into.
No, I 100% agree with you, but it's not double HI double G whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Umlauts.
It has nice syllables and it bounces off the tongue. I can respect that.
I'd be curious
name.
what others say. I don't think too many of my names are like that. You might think of pronouncing them a different way, but they're not really that difficult, right? Like Selvandrea, you might say Selvandrea, right? But you're not having difficulty reaching the end of the word, I kind of aimed for that for most of my words. I don't think there's anything too tricky. I was somewhat intentional.
I agree. I 100% agree. I never came across something that was like, hold on, I have to stop and actually think about it. And that's something that's kind of quite frequently when you read nothing but or sci-fi, it's become something that happens quite frequently for me, I know. But I didn't have to do that. I think you did wonderful. And you kept it.
By the way. Cheers.
Yeah, what's going on? Jabronis, dude. It brings me back to the old school WWF, The Rock.
His greeting and everything I see, man. I love this guy.
Yeah, thanks for being here, brother. All right, so talking about the book, got released today. Give us what particularly, and I know that some of this story, this isn't the first time telling it, but what was the inspiration you having to get this story out of you? What was it that kind of played a part?
Oh, that's tough. Going back to that's the funny thing is having published part of it earlier.
Right.
Yeah, it's been that's so fun though. It's been a lengthy process and a very rewarding one, so much of this started much younger. I didn't start actually writing it till I was about I'm 32 now. I guess I would have been about 29, I think, when I first put words to paper. But it's a story that's kind of been evolving for a long time, piecing together different elements. I mean, some of that just comes from,
Did you want to write first, or did you have an idea of what you wanted to write?
Idea first, by far.
So you wanted to write first, and then the idea kind of was a work in progress.
Oh, no, the reverse. The idea was there. I think when I was younger, fantasy for me was like, I don't like the idea of fantasy as an escape, and I never thought about it as that. But there were situations in my life where fantasy became not just something I turned to get out, but something I turned to believe in something better. It was a way to start imagining situations better than what I was maybe going through at the time, and not just for the sake of for escape, but for inspiration, to start believing that things could be better, to start fighting back, to start taking a stand against things that weren't okay, around me, and it kind of gave me a drive. Fantasy for me was always that blend of inspiration and hope, right?
Yes.
A call to action. Now I say and I don't say that to be preachy. I don't say that in the sense of I think all fantasy needs to, preach, a message at you. I think the story does that itself.
That way at all.
Yeah. Right. So So I was already living in so many of these daydreams over the years, for a while. And then, when I was much younger, I did try to commit some story to page, and I showed it to a friend. I think I was about 11 or 12 at the time. And the friend just said, "This is garbage. It just reads like you're trying to write another Lord of the Rings."
Tim, and I said, garbage.
Yeah. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. And I
stepping stones.
Tossed it. I really shouldn't have, though. It maybe not a regret, but it would be interesting to see. No, I can't call it a regret, because I actually love the weird series of events over the next 20 years, right? That took me to where I am, because those experiences that I've had, the adventure that I've had the last however many years, became a lot of that became what inspired not elements of the story, but definitely the themes. Let's call it these themes that I talked about earlier. They come out of a lot of experiences over the last 2 decades.
I remember a big experience for you is good and evil through things you've done in the past. And if you'd like to talk about it, do. If not, it's fine. But things that you've done in the past that keep your interest and love and wanting to tell the story of good and evil comes through. It's not something that is like a secret or anything throughout your novels. Yeah. And I love that, because I've come to find that good versus evil, I love that struggle, because that is like one of the most human things, if not the most human. It's like being a human comes with selfish tendencies. Yeah. You learn to love, and that starts to take sidelines. So the tug of war is 100%. I'm on board.
And I tried to have, and you're kind of hinting at, part of my story is that out of high school, I went into Bible college and became a pastor, and so I even put that on that's sort of my, it's not meant to be a cheap tagline, but it is just a huge part of my story is I was a pastor. And, after leaving ministry, that period of my life is still so foundational to who I am, just those are 13 years altogether of my life, from when I was around 11, 12, stepping into, really deeply entrenched in the churches I was involved with, to starting to help out as, a leader for different, junior high ministries, to jumping up to youth ministry, or to helping out, right? To going to Bible college, to becoming an assistant pastor filling in who was away, to becoming, an intern pastor in Quebec City, to then becoming a youth and young adult pastor, and assisting with some of the young adult and children ministries while I was in Montreal, right? Like, this is a huge part of my life. And I'll tell you, leaving that, you become so, entrenched in that very unique and a lot of it very beautiful culture, but it is very much its own culture, especially when you're in a position of leadership, because that's all you know for years, right? So then when I left that, the culture shock of going to secular university, I can't even begin to describe what that was like. Very, a lot of good, a lot of bad, and a lot of interesting, and just adjusting. And a lot of that is just adjusting to a wider world that I was isolated from, but a lot of it was also just, a whole other universe of ways of thinking that, some of which are still very foreign to me. And so, it was a fun ride. It's been an interesting, I left ministry and did, because of my theology degree, they let me do a 4-year honors Bachelor of History in 3 years. So I raced through that. And then I did a master's in public policy, thinking I was going to do government work, which is just dumb, because I knew from people I knew, like even my own dad was a government worker and hated it and just drained his soul. And I should have known better. I don't know. I think it was just, to me, after years of sort of trying to get my feet back under me, I just wanted something easy. And I think that's where my head was at, so
I've been there, bro.
Yeah, so I jumped in government and hated it. Some great people, but I hated the work. And so I ran the other direction. Now, the blessing of all this was that during my university years, I was editing, And when I got appointed the editor-in-chief during my master's, so that was the editor, like our journal it was a student journal for master's and PhD level submissions, right? So part of my responsibility was training up the team of editors under me to put this thing together and then get it peer reviewed and then put it together again, do final rant. Anyways, like I went above and beyond and took some editing courses of my own to try to make sure I was up to the task. Yeah. And so while I was doing that, I discovered this love of that process, of the writing process, the editing process. I studied marketing at the same time, which was I was studying economics as part of my degree, and that got me into marketing.
Tim's an economics guy too, Tim Wolf.
So you were Bruce Wayne training in the mountains.
Yeah, when you've mentioned the econ stuff before, I've kind of always peeked up a little bit. So
me and Tim Wolf could go on and on about economics. We did, in fact. I don't know why. Like people, economics is that's where it's at. That's fire. I love all that stuff.
Yeah,
anyway,
philosophy
sorry.
with math. That's what it is.
There you go. Yeah. So like the long story short there is that when I left government, I had these skills that I knew that I just fallen in love with by then, So that's why I decided I was going to take it was a 2-year program at the college, but they let me do it in 1 because of my previous studies. So that's a lot of school by that point. We're talking 4 years of theology, 3 years of history, 2 years of public policy and econ, and some marketing on the side. Technically a whole other 4-month semester of marketing.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and then another year of this writing stuff, and I was still just focused on the editing and the marketing, but I started just for fun writing this story that we see now during this sort of in between phase, because there was about a 6-month phase in between from when there was an overlap of working for government, but I had just finished the school, right? And it's also the middle of COVID. So I'm working remote, nothing to do in between. So I start writing my story just to start putting these editing, and writing principles I've been learning into practice. Just 300 words a day at first, nice and small, and just taking little bites out of this story day by day. And I fell in love. But I still was more focused on the editing and writing until I went to this writing program. And then suddenly I was surrounded by a whole bunch of creative writing students, and I guess I caught the bug.
What is it about editing? Because I can sense, and I didn't grasp it before. You probably talked about it, but I didn't grasp it because I can tell you love editing. What is it about? Is it being meticulous? Is it a mystery? It's like I'm finding these mysteries that are here that maybe shouldn't be, and I can fix those. What is it for you?
No, I think it's I spent so many years, again, like I was reading fantasy for, since I was young, but I always saw it as this ethereal, abstract, purely artistic thing beyond me, right? I would read these amazing books and think, how could I ever attain to this? I thought it was very much, you're either born with it or you're not, right? And that's not to say that natural talent and skill don't play a part, but the point is there are learnable skills that play a role in writing and certainly in editing. Yeah. And when someone started teaching me some of those skills, I started realizing, wow, some of this is actually very much learnable at beyond just an intuitive level. You gather the intuition over time as you read more, as you practice more, as you edit more, as you write more, as you get feedback, right? Feedback is essential. If you're not getting feedback from readers and beta readers and reviewers, you'll never know what actually works and doesn't.
You're living in a dream world.
Yeah. Right? So that's big too. But once you pick up some of those mechanical skills, and it's beyond just grammar, it's beyond just vocabulary, and it's not just about having like rich prose. It's about knowing what's going to slip into the mind easier, for the reader. What's going to meet that balance between beauty and clarity, and between evocativeness and simplicity, because our minds jumble with all these things all the time, right? And if you can find those sweet spots between those, if you can learn to play with the tools that help make even just a simple sentence, you can strike an adjective here and add a comma here, and suddenly the clarity jumps up tenfold, and it's still just as beautiful a sentence. Or you catch a logic flaw that steals away from the beauty of a story the author's telling. And you say, oh, this doesn't match up. Let's switch this maybe to here. And now we can tell the story you were thinking. Little things like this, but they transform a story into something beautiful.
There has to be undoubtedly not just, I love that, a couple things. I think there is born talent with many different aspects, but just because you're not that person that's born with that talent, it's so easy. You can't learn to take it to that level that is born with the talent. It just takes more work, and you have to have the passion for it, or else it just doesn't become that.
It's part of the way you foster passion is through consistency, So that's a big thing too, is giving yourself the opportunity, like I that's my commitment over the last two to 3 years has just been trying to find a daily opportunity to build at least one of these skills. So even when I stopped writing before, I was focused completely on editing, editing my own stuff, but also editing for others. I started doing free chapter edits for other authors,
that's very helpful too. It's doing what you need other people to do to help you be more successful with your writing and to hone in on it. Also taking part as a community member by giving and taking. And I think that is one of the best types of relationships you can have, especially, I could just go on and on about the community, but that is the heart of it right there.
Yeah. No, I've met some awesome authors just through that opportunity, and
you helped out with some of my chapters.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, that's part of why I started the chapter swap that we, have too, is just to give authors an opportunity to do this for each other too. I'm not always available to do it, but now people post a chapter, someone else posts their chapter, and they edit it for each other. It's kind of just fun things like that. Yeah, I love it.
Brian D. Anderson popped in here with his locks of love and the Harley. What's going on, Brian? It's so freaking cool to see you here, brother. It's been a while.
That is awesome. Every time I see that picture, I just think that's like the dream hair beard combo right there. Yeah,
that's awesome. In the dictionary right next to badass. It's like the official definition is Brian D. Anderson's profile picture. The greatest skill an editor can have is the ability to tell a writer what they need to hear. Oh, that's preach it, dude. Preach it. That needs to be written down somewhere important.
I joke, I kind of have an editorial language at this point where if I'm editing for you, you're going to see a lot of, okay, let me get this right. I would do this or I wouldn't do this in comments. Mm-hmm. You're going to see, how about this? You're going to see, I definitely wouldn't or would do this. Now, if you see definitely, please, for the love of God, do what I tell you. If you see how about, that's probably a mild suggestion, or something like, I'm just giving you something to work with.
You need a scale of severity.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely is right here. Like, please.
Yeah. Listen. I try to give people something to work with. I will make sure I point out when something is critical, and beyond that, I give you the tools to do something with your own work,
My favorite comment is when it says, I don't know what this means. And you're like, you know what? I don't either. So
those are fun comments. Yeah.
We could be talking about something that doesn't even exist. And I can't even go into one of those tangents that those like theoretical physicists do. I couldn't even play like I'm that smart. We're actually in a time vacuum that's, the thread of space and time's being merged. And it's like, whoa, to think of those types of theories and ideas, I have to admit, either takes an incredible brain power or lots of drugs. He's here, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm trying to catch up on some of these comments too, but yeah, thanks for coming, Ed.
It's work, man. It's so fun, but trying to give you, the author, my attention, and also I'm going to have to hire me 2 or 3 people to go through them. Like, look,
I hear you. Wait, before I forget, because I'm laughing at this comment and then I'm thinking about this too. Corey Ratliff is in the comments here.
Yeah.
He said, editing makes me realize how dumb I am. And I mean, that's true of all of us. I edit my own stuff, and the process I went through to get this book to where it is now, I caught so much that you just laugh at yourself and think, wow. And then you give the chapters out to others, and you give the book out to others, and they give you comments. And you're like, I did all of this harrowing editing and I still didn't catch this. Like this.
Do you ever deal with this person's recommendation and this person's recommendation for the same part, or both different pieces of recommendation? Which one should I pick? Who should? Does that happen?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Run away.
And so, I mean, at the end of the day, it is your story, and you do have to make those judgment calls.
Okay.
I got a lot of that for sure. From beta readers, I got a lot of competing advice, and so you kind of pick and choose at some point. You try to make an educated, informed decision using all of the information you've gathered. But
wow,
it's still yours at the end of the day.
Thank you for sharing that, because just because you have beta readers doesn't mean that they're going to catch everything, and then what they do think they catch or seem to have an opinion on what they caught, you may not agree with that and completely actually disagree. So there's still these decisions that are going to come down to you as the author. It's just whether or not you see that side of their opinion.
Yeah,
I like
and that goes for editors too. Like when you are editing for someone, you have to have the compassion, but also the humility to recognize you could be wrong too, and you might not know where they're going in such a way that actually your advice becomes bad, and you have to hope that the author is wise enough to ignore you when you give bad advice. That's a whole other side of this too.
If someone has an issue with your writing, they're almost always right, but the solution they give
is almost always
not always right.
That's fair. That's very
so what you got to take from that is there's something wrong here. It has to be fixed. This might be a solution, but this might be a worse problem. So you got to find the balance.
So now you have 5 problems.
You got 7, 17, 100.
Yeah. So we'll take one problem, add 5 more, and somehow this gets us close. I'm just joking. That would be
That's
very
us just said in the comments. Tim is probably his own beta reader. I'm dying.
I didn't see that out of. Dude, that's epic funny. Profile pic and comment. I like so it, brother. Good. Stay around.
Yeah. No, okay, before I forget what I was going to say, Corey Ratliff, there's another guy who I'm glad is here because we've, I think it was for the second book. Corey started kind of a group chat, sort of. I think the original one was in January, and it was essentially a NaNoWriMo. But no, it would have been before. It would have been before the new year. It would have been in 2023. Anyways, the point is, we ended up in a group chat. Just I think 3 or 4 of us originally. Just keeping word counts together and keeping each other accountable. And so Corey in that push gets credit for probably 2/3 of the book because it got me through the Seas of the Zova, and it got me through most of the third part, to the book, the Fall of the Selvandrea.
He is that type of dude. He is.
Yeah, he really is. Just an awesome
guy that you want on your team being a cheerleader for you because I don't know if he really even knows this about himself, but I think he's got a strong mentality. He knows what he needs, or he knows what he loves and is passionate about, and that's not something he'll sacrifice. And I love that about you, brother. So I'm glad you're here. Josh, what's going on, dude? Popping in to say, "What's up, big bearded daddies?" It's good to see you, brother. Hope you're not eating too many processed books because you can get a bellyache. So try to stick to organic books since you eat them. There is. So Corey, by the way, sent a wonderful. Actually, first, I keep seeing all of these new projects you're doing, Corey. Dude, you have a full-time job and a family. What kind of time could you possibly have to be coming out and even thinking about multiple series? What is your
how much Corey writes in a day, let alone how much he's doing? How many projects he has on the go at the same time just blows my mind. That's the thing about working in these chats together is I see his word counts and I'm just baffled every time.
He during breaks at work, he's working, and instead of taking a break, he's working on other stuff. So an incredible amount of ambition. That's something to look up to, dude. 1 second, y'all.
Great comments.
I know it's a struggle. It's I want to throw every single one up. So I hope you guys know that. I would. This would be a 9.5 hour live stream if I did that though. Brian said, with beta readers, you're looking for consensus. Okay, I like that. When 3 or more are giving you the same criticism, you need to take it very seriously. 1 or 2 look at it, but you might not need to change. He has hella experience, both traditionally published and self-published way. So I love when he throws those nuggets of gold in the chat. Do we agree? Maybe that's not. Maybe I missed a comment. But hey, that's what I do.
Current's comment at the end, I love the 9-hour live stream. What's the problem? I failed to see it.
Brother, that is very, very. You gotta have a lot of energy for that. I got 4 kids, dog.
I wouldn't do that to you, Matt.
That's a marathon. I'm more for like a sprint type of dude. You know what I mean? Let's get a badass hour in. But look, hour 9, I'm sleeping.
Yeah. No, that's funny.
So, how does it feel? Actually, before I ask that question, tell us about the situation. And I don't mean situation. I mean the kind of story at the beginning and through the beginning until now about taking your books off and kind of reinventing your work. So I know that's a very broad and big topic.
No, I got you though. Yeah.
Would you talk about it, man? Because this is very inspiring and I respect the absolute crap out of it.
Yeah, it's part of the story there is one, it's a few different ways to get there, but I originally had this idea of 6 parts that I kind of imagined in 2 books. And then I want to do more after, but that was the original arc in my mind, was these 6 parts, kind of essentially 2 3-part arcs in my mind. And at the same time, I kind of realized as I was writing, my writing style probably a better fit to maybe a younger audience.
Okay.
And and part of it too, very new to this territory, very, and I knew no one in the community. So I'm very fresh to the scene. I have really no one to get feedback from other than students in my writing program who probably weren't my target audience, Okay. So I was experimenting with a lot of writing techniques. I was coming out of university. So I had the extremes, and I'm taking marketing at the same time. So I had the extremes of academic, pedantic, long-winded, flowery, but also stiff writing on one end. And then I had very punchy, simple, lacking evocativeness marketing and business speak, right? And a government work, so very bureaucratic. So those were my writing influences at the time, other than the fiction I was reading, right? But it's very hard to just by osmosis read something and then write on that same level.
Sure.
Right? That's not how it works, So I jump into writing these books, and they're this weird hodgepodge of all these different styles and all these different editing principles I've been learning, but combined in a very truncated, choppy way. I describe that initial style as very choppy. And I even knew it. I can't even explain my thinking at the time that made me think, this will work. I'm doing this intentionally. It'll work. Somehow this is what people need. They can't find it. I don't know. It's so funny looking back in hindsight, the things you learn, right?
Yeah. So that's the thing you experienced.
Yeah. And I also, here's the thing too, is I remembered for a younger audience, the books that got me hooked on fantasy. And they were serial style novella length books. I look back, and like Del Toro Quest by Emily Rada, I think is how you pronounce it. Those were my very first really addictive fantasies. And they were like 27,000 words each, maybe 30 on average, very short, but I would finish those in a night and be hooked and read the next one the next morning,
Oh, wow.
And that was the dream, right? The dream was to write something like that. So, even though long-term I pictured myself writing longer novels, I made the decision to split my story into 6 parts instead of 2, right? Again, I had the arcs outlined. I had the general story in mind, and I split it up. And that meant splitting it at points where you really are still left in the dark and you're really left on these weird cliffhangers. And so it's very intense storytelling met with, what in the heck did I just read? Where is this going? I want to know, but also like, you can't just leave me here. It's way too soon, And that was the feedback from everybody. This is really choppy and this is way too soon to end this story. And so like, I'm really grateful for that feedback because frankly, part of me knew better, And I knew I could do better because I knew those stylistic choices I made were weirdly intentional. I knew I could do better. You know?
Well, I don't know if you're a human like me, but if I'm thinking I have to put a lot more work into this, but is this mediocre enough to get by? Or, and I'm not saying this is your thought, but if it's me, I want to publish books, and I think this is pretty good. Yeah, I could make this better, but if I try to make everything continuously better, I'll never publish something. So I think you were taking a lot of your experience that you had at the time and probably advice, and you made the decision you made, and I don't think it was a wrong one. I just think that the decision.
Well, that's the other thing too, is I had seen authors who, for example, had like hundreds of pages of outlines and notes and had never written a word.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew I didn't want to be like that. And I was also coming at it from my business and economics and marketing perspective of reiteration is the best way to improve at anything.
What do you mean?
And in the business world, it's just doing something again and getting feedback and then improving it. And I think publishing is one industry where it's very hard to do that because you're technically not allowed. You know, in traditional publishing circles, you might put out a second edition of your book later, but it's really frowned upon to take down anything, right?
Okay, yeah.
And independent publishing has made that possible. And I kind of knew that in advance. So I thought, worst case scenario, I will take feedback into account and I will make this better. And sure enough, the feedback said, yeah, that's probably what you got to do. You know, and like you said, I wanted to put something out there. I knew that if I just kept procrastinating, I never would. And frankly, I never would have learned what I needed to improve if I hadn't taken that chance, you know. But once people said, hey, do something about this, to me, it was easy. It was like, you know what? I am more than willing to bite the bullet, take these 2 books down, and put in the work to turn this into a complete story, and then to change the writing style to something that I know fits the genre better. Because I was addicted to fantasy. I knew something a little richer. I still write in a very fast-paced, intense style, but it's a lot less choppy than it was. You know, I think most people, I mean, both of you guys, I think, have, you know, Isaac and Tim, you've seen my earlier stuff. You know, I think you know what I'm talking about.
Well, I think a couple things. I think that for me, when you came, I remember it was on Discord, you had messaged me and you told me kind of your thoughts. And I hadn't known this, you know, my experience with everybody's book that's on the screen right now was at the very beginning of me starting this, and were pivotal for me to learn. All of your guys was everybody on the screen, and it took probably most of the time not knowing exactly what I was talking about until, you know, again, using your and many other authors' work at a pivotal point in this process for me where I was learning. I knew I was passionate about it, but I didn't know the ins and the outs. So I guess kind of why I'm saying that is when you came to me with what you were going to do, I thought that was brave. I thought that doing ultimately what you feel is the right thing and making your work even better and adding the illustrations and just putting higher quality product, because that's what it is too. It's a piece of creative work, but it's also a product. And I think that you made the right choice, man. And I think the right choice is always the one you feel most passionately about. I can tell that you portray that passion. Tim, and
I mean, I was passionate about the story, but I think it's safe to say the passion for what I put out just wasn't there to the same degree. You know, I mean, you want to talk about passion. Nothing fuels your passion like taking books down, going through 6 months of harrowing editing, like really intense editing.
You could say, forget it.
Sorry,
because you could have very easily like, hey, I'm going to start a new series. I just forget it. You know, it is what it is. But instead, you took the hard route, which is usually what.
Well, it's funny because I had an article published. This is on Medium recently. I don't know if anyone writes on Medium at all, but so the writing cooperative on there, about 230,000 followers. And they published an article I wrote on this editing experience. This was just, I think, 2 weeks ago, last week or 2 weeks ago.
It's an app?
Yes, but more, writing app slash
website. Site.
Yeah.
Just called Medium.
Yeah, just called Medium.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll try and find a link after. But
I'm interested
for the article. Yeah. but anyways, and it's just, I've gotten so much feedback, even just from that, people hearing the experience of like who loved it. Because what I titled the article, I think it was, I rewrote a 170K novel word for word. So worth it. Blah blah. It's close to the title, because the point is, one pivotal part of my editing process so I wrote some new chapters. I added and or took away from every chapter in the books, in the originals. There are changes across the board. It didn't really change the story, but it added some depth to the earlier ones, and then it's definitely added some flow to the original chapters. But after I was done expanding those first two, and then after I wrote the third, I then took all three, and in individual files, I wrote every single chapter word for word again. So I would have the book on one screen and the file open on the other, typing. And whenever I caught something I didn't like, I would change it in both. And whenever I caught a typo, I would change it, obviously correct it. I would reword some things here and there as I went. Like I essentially wrote this 170,000 word novel twice.
Not essentially, you did. Plus,
I did. I mean, yeah, I did word for word, if not expanded.
That sounds like a kind of torture. What you just were talking about.
Yeah, that's a no for me.
So
it's a lot of work.
And you said that's a no for me. So
Timothy, it was fun. I know it's hard to believe. It was such a rewarding experience.
I'm glad to hear that.
I loved it. I shouldn't have. Okay, I'll tell you why I loved it, is because I already had experience with copy work. Which, if you don't know what that is, that's where you take someone's work you value. In marketing, you do this with ads. You take ads that have been effective and you copy them out word for word in order to kind of absorb, to study. It's a way to just help your mind, like look at the nuance of why this worked. But when you do this with longer pieces, you do it to absorb writing style. You do it to absorb prose. So you take, like, I've done this with chapters out of books I really like. I'll do it with an entire chapter from a book I really like. I will type it out word for word on my computer.
E.C. Greaves just did this.
E.C. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, like it does, right? It works. You catch things you do not, because when you're just reading your own writing, your mind fills in the blanks with what you meant to say, not with what's actually on the page, and it's why editing your own work is so hard.
Yeah.
So my thing was, I was already familiar with copy work, so doing it with my own work, I thought, why not just give it a try? So I tested it on a single chapter, and I loved it, because I felt like I was diving back in, and I was becoming like re-engaged with my writing, with my style, with my like the flow and the themes and the depth. Like I was actually getting emotionally attached again, in a way that just doesn't happen when you're rereading your own work, because by the time you're rereading, you're so tired,
You're getting your mojo back.
Yeah. This was, I want to tell people, this is like the best way you could possibly get your mojo back.
Wow,
when you're in the writing process.
My mojo. So Timothy,
which one's that too? Is that Austin Powers too?
I have no idea. I've just watched them all, and I don't even pay attention to the titles because I just binge them. I'm not
sure.
Yeah,
I think it's the second. Yeah,
get the freaking
room. One he loses this mojo in.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be 2. Yeah, because 2 is 3 is Gold Member.
I'll take the baby. That's one of the greatest movies ever made.
They still hold up. I don't care, man.
They hilarious. Do. You and the laser get a freaking room. Yeah, that shit is hilarious, dude. Oh my god!
I think my favorite joke of all time is from those movies. It's I realize it's a non sequitur, but now we're just having fun. But it's when Austin Powers' father meets Goldmember for the first time, and he says, there are only 2 kinds of people in this world that I hate: people who are intolerant of other people because of where they're from, and the Dutch.
I lost my genitalia in an unfortunate smelting accident.
Gosh. Classics, absolute classics.
That's an official rabbit hole we went down there for a second.
Yep.
So, Timothy Wolf, what do you feel when you hear this process he would, underwent and put himself through? What does that say to you as an author?
So one thing I'm really learning from this is that Tim McKay is a lot smarter than I am. So, I definitely don't do any of that. but at the same time, I'm not as good as Tim. So I mean, you take what you get in that regard.
Hey, whoa!
I know he's throwing like some things like definites down. There's no definites, and I love both of your work, and everything is a personal process, right? Like the fact that you have your own thing is commendable. I mean, you found a thing that works for you. This works for the other Tim. I don't know you, but
where I have editing, where I have rewriting and crazy, what's the word I'm looking for? ADHD, impervious little girls running around, overpowered ADHD little girls. So I have my writing process and ADHD little girls and weird tentacle alligator monsters. You have lizard people and zine and angel demon things, like right, like we're different worlds.
It's a tale of two Tims.
It's
a tale of two
Tims.
We complete
each
other.
Day.
There we go.
One liked tentacles and the other liked things that looked like I just lost it. I had something clever, but in beard-like fashion, I forgot it. So
Ed says all Tims can merge to form a Devastator style Tim, right? I'm pretty sure that's
where did you
it
there it is.
Be either the greatest or worst writer that's ever lived if all the Tims merged.
Yeah. Like, there's one and only rule. You have to have the name Tim. It's like, that's going to be an interesting bunch.
Make like a Voltron of Tims.
Gosh.
So Ed or EC Greaves, to those who don't know, his first name's Ed. I just told on him. So, it's right there. I'm pretty sure that all Tims can merge. Oh, you just said that. Jesus.
It's all good.
But leave it to EC or Ed to come in and throw some extremely wonderful comments. And that's another thing I've missed, by the way, Ed, is you haven't been here for a little while. I missed your comments, dude. I'm glad you're here. And Brian, you can hear how it actually reads and improves dialogue and flow. So what is that regarding?
I think they're talking about using speech to text and or reading aloud your own work. And then that was one of the things I did too, is I did speech to text and I recorded all my chapters and then listened back to them, which was a weirdly therapeutic experience. So I'm thinking I can probably actually do a half decent audiobook. I have a good mic. I just want to get some of my system, up to par. But yeah, text to speech. I'll be honest. Now I think this has to do with just differences, right? Different learning differences. The way we learn affects the way we write. Oh. So I do not learn well audibly, and I don't catch things well audibly. And there are reasons for that. Like I'm technically ADHD. I'm not hyperactive, but I'm very, very inattentive on those scales that they use to like a dramatic degree, to the point where I fall in the bottom 6% of people for processing speed, which means audible information takes me a weird amount of time, apparently. Like on testing and stuff, I'm in the bottom. But I score so high in other metrics that it makes up for it, right? And that's just the point is we all have our different places we come from. So for me, speech to text, I don't catch things, but like it helps. I hear from so many people that it does. So you kind of have to experiment. My rewriting thing might not work for you.
True. And that personal thing.
Yeah. So you pull these tools from different authors and find out what works for you.
What are you feeling, Isaac Anderson, about the process that Tim McKay went through with redoing his work? Hello, Isaac. Are you there? Hello, mate.
He's frozen, isn't he?
Are you bloody frozen? All right.
Either that or he's very deep in thought. But yeah, no, I think he's gone. Shoot.
Moving on then. We'll keep him up there. Hold on here.
Yes.
There we go.
Oh, no, hold on. Say something.
Check.
I don't hear anything on my
end. You're muted, brother.
Oh. What he's probably saying is really good too, which is unfortunate.
Try again?
No.
No.
I don't think he can hear us either because we're all told that we can't hear him.
In the meantime, David's here. Cheers, David.
David Grimdark List is up in this bitch. What's going on, dude? My bearded brethren.
No, I'm talking about a cool cover. David List has an awesome cover.
Dude, Violence and Vigilance.
Yes.
Some of the finest things out there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that cover.
It's right there with gold. I mean, anything that Felix Ortiz touches, man.
Test.
Oh, that test is coming through.
Hey, there we go.
Isaac is back.
Leave it to Isaac to just...
I'm back, guys.
So the reason we found out that you were inaudible there is because I asked you a question and you just kept staring at me. I was like, feeling so awkward.
I'll answer any question.
And you had your hand like this too. So we just thought you were very deep in thought. So there was like pause went on even longer than it should have.
I apologize.
So hearing what Tim McKay did with his piece of work, his baby, and did things the way that he truly wanted to, he made it what he's proud of. What does that translate to you? How do you take that? What do you feel? What are you thinking? Let me in there. Let me in your mind. Let me see what it is.
Yeah. So in response to Tim McKay rewriting his entire novel with 2 screens, getting over.
Yeah.
That's great.
Tedious.
That's really good.
Yeah, definitely
when I got to the end of Song of Bones for my edit, I didn't use 2 screens. I didn't rewrite everything. But I read the whole thing with the notepad, and I made all these notes of all these things that got to change. So I read through almost the whole. I had stopped halfway through because I had to go fix things. But I tried to read the entire thing in one sitting without editing, just absorbing it as a book, making notes.
And your brain exploded.
Then my brain exploded, and I said, I can't keep going. I got to go fix these problems. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I mean, that's just the editing process. Tim did it in a very Tim way with 2 screens and every single word. And
look at this quote. I think this perfectly sums up. Brian, you tying things up in a bow for us. Anyone who says that they know the right way to do it doesn't know what they're talking about. Robin Hope.
Maybe someday I'll be wise enough, but then I'll probably die shortly after.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. It's like when you're wise and you tell people how like they're living unwise, that person's usually gone. He's like, what did he know? He's not even here. It's like then you get to that point and you're like, that son of a bitch was wise.
There's a Disney animator named what's his name?
Bluth.
I know his name. He basically directed Tangled. It was his idea. Anyway,
okay.
So old Disney animator. He started off working on Fox and the Hound. And he's being trained up by the older guys who knew Walt back in like the 1920s. And they'd come in and they'd say, I'm going to tell you something. And you're not going to understand it until years later, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And he would say something and he would go, okay, that's weird. And then 20 years later, he'd think he was right. I understand now. So sometimes wisdom takes a little bit for you to understand.
Well, I think it takes also, I love what you're saying because it all comes down to, at least this is how I'm translating as someone who isn't an author yet, is you have to take the time to realize and get to know yourself and how you learn and how you approach different problems and the way that you're going to do it the right way and not just a mediocre way. Because I could rush through it in a way that is super like full of anxiety for me, or I could find the way that makes me feel a little bit more peaceful so I could go through it and take more time.
Some projects stopped me because I was scared of them. Like I get into it, I'm like, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not wise enough.
Right.
So I would jump back. I would do something smaller and sillier, and I was able to get through that.
I like that, and that was a way for you to kind of cope with what you were dealing with, man. And it just speaks. It does. And I wanted to say, Curran, yes, my accents will show up unpredictably and probably won't make any sense, and that's how I do, man. That's how I bloody do, man.
A quick comment there is that
oh hell no, you're not allowed, man. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, okay, see ya. No, I was just gonna say, like, the fun thing about a crew like this is, and now, Isaac, you were just on with the guys at Fall of Selvandrea earlier, and Tim, I've seen you all over the map, so I've heard your stories enough to know, like we're the three of us are still relatively new-ish to this territory. you know, with varying degrees of you know, I mean, you know, Tim here with, you know, his you know, like you're starting to do really well for yourself. It's pretty fun to see, you know, you're kind of the guy I'm watching right now. It's fun, you know, it's for someone who, you know, having taken my books down, the people who kept going, that I'm keeping my eye on, where I'm like, okay, this is who I would, you know, let's see what works, right? You know, this is, it's fun to watch. Anyways, my point is, people are still relatively new, and yet I think we're demonstrating we're in this for the long haul. And it's really only with, again, reiteration and time that you discover what works for you, and you discover your own habits, you discover your own skills, your own interests, your own voice as a writer, right? Like it doesn't happen overnight. You have to start somewhere, but really to I think have an impact in this industry, let's call it that, you know, you have to be in this for the long haul, you know, and I mean, Matt, you know, you're at what, a year and a half now. Right. And seeing how this channel has exploded in that time, like, and the commitment you've taken, the way this has evolved, you know, like, you know, the from the Discord channel to this, you know, to monetization, to just every little step you've taken, right? Like we're in these things for the long haul. And that's actually the only way you start to see things evolve to, maybe to put it, I don't want to put it too
no, you've made
spiritually, but the way they're meant to be, right? For something to reach where it's meant to be, it takes time.
The knowledge that is truly worth gaining doesn't come overnight. It takes work. And I think you said that wonderfully, 100%, nothing changed. Yeah. And I also think the natural starting part for, I mean, at least for Legacy of Bulam, is Platinum Tinted Darkness.
Yeah, check that out.
And then naturally, from there, we go to Lizard Man.
Yes.
Here's the Maelstrom.
I gotta
with the lizard people.
I gotta mail you this one too.
Oh yeah, dude. I gotta
get you the novella's actually killing it lately, so I'm really really hyped about that.
I'm glad you said. I was just gonna say congrats, because I've been seeing the novella everywhere as well, dude.
That's it's cool. Like weird. It's funny because like I didn't really. That's not like my big passion project. This is something I did after the big passion project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's the one that's gonna end up taking off. So you know, it's just.
It kind of proves the point when publishers talk about times change, wants and loves, and genres that are huge at the moment change in all the time. And it's really cool to see, like you said, I don't think there's any way to narrow down how to write into success. I think there's obvious parts that have to be there no matter what. Like, you have to be decent at writing, obviously, and find something that you're passionate about, that you are knowledgeable about. But when it comes down to how a cover looks, or the genre, or how it's marketed, your guess is as good as mine. Is that something that you guys would agree with?
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. You know, like, we're all experimenting, and so many of these bigger things like trends just fly right by us, right? No one, even those who pretend to know, frankly, to be blunt, I think we're all independent, independently published or self-published. So I think we're probably a little biased, but I would say that those who pretend to know don't, we're all just catching the wave as we go. And so we're all experimenting. We're all trying new things. We're all, you learn the skills where you can, and that takes consistent effort. But as far as
you all should just quit. You should all quit and write vampire kangaroos. And yeah.
Well, my next book is going to be a lit RPG monster erotica. So I'm definitely,
dude.
I got to pay the bills.
Streams.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
Timothy Wolf broke into success in the 2025 era with his fantasy erotic. I'm not going to go there.
No,
Vampire Kangaroo epic.
I'll send you the title I had in mind in a message, because I'd get kicked off here. So man, lots of work, lots of dedication, lots of passion, lots of pride, and not pride in a bad way. I think just being proud of putting in the work you think that your work deserved, putting in the time and effort to, and commissioning that art and putting that in the hand of somebody who does it well and represents your book the way you feel it should have been, is just a very cool thing to kind of walk through.
Speaking of art really quick, I can confirm that an illustrated cover is coming.
Really? For this book?
Yeah. So I published today. What you see now is put together by Rachel Bostwick, who did my previous covers, and this one just went to a whole other level. I'm in love with the current cover for the Fall of Selvandrea.
If there's one thing that I would ever tell you about something, is that I think, and this is just my opinion, as a reader, and like what I would pick up if I had no idea what it was about or who it is or the author, this or that, an illustrated cover, I think, is going to blow this book out of the water, dude. I think you're making a great choice.
I'm excited for it. And I mean, predictably, it's being done by Joe Requeza. So,
well, proven to be worth your time and effort and funds and all the other stuff you dedicate to getting a cover artist.
Everything will match.
So I can't promise a timeline, except it will be sooner rather than later.
Excellent. So how is that going to work? So just those that order it right now will get the first cover, and then you'll do kind of like a relaunch with the new cover.
Yeah. So from what I've confirmed with Amazon and so on, essentially this will become an exclusive that no longer exists. And it will be superseded by the new cover for both the paperback and the hardback. That is the goal.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
very excited for you, dude.
Yeah. And I mean, knowing what the concept is and then knowing just Joe's skill, I am very excited. Again, I won't give timeline info, but let's just say it's like I will be working with Joe very soon, and that's going to be exciting to see. And then it's the process of getting the typography done and everything else to finalize it. That I can't say definitively when it'll be ready, but yeah.
Do you have a map in the book?
No, I don't. So that I'm hoping for book 2.
Okay.
But the thing, this is funny. We talk about writing process, things like pantsing and or plotting. I'm definitely in the middle. I have pretty elaborate outlines to a point, but then I pants chapter by chapter with outline notes within the chapter as I go. But what that means is that I did not feel comfortable doing a map for where the story is at right now, because there's I knew where the second book was going to take us, and that whole area I didn't want to commit to a map that would maybe change as I'm writing by necessity, right?
I don't think that it presents an issue at all, because I actually respect that you knew where your story was as far as place and representing that on a map would be better for your story in book 2 as a starting point for maps.
Yeah. Like, because that's the thing is, by the end of this second book, which I'm about 26,000 words into book 2 right now. Again, I kind of very much put it on hold to really focus on the rewrite for the last 6 months. So I'm finally starting to write the second book, and I mean, it's anyways, I'm probably about a sixth. I'm about a sixth of the way through so far. So I mean, Anyway, so it's coming along, and I will have a map for book 2. Let's end it there. I know at this point I know where I know the boundaries of the.
What you guys are seeing right now is the struggle between telling what you are passionate about and telling too much at an earlier date, and that's the conflict you're seeing at the moment, and I love it because there's excitement there, but you're like, hold on, we'll get there. But right now, this is what I can say. I love it, dude. I love it. Yeah. Just another sign.
Well, the thing is, maps are awesome. I really do. Like, I people who tell me I need a map. I'm like, I hear you. It's coming. I promise. Just not yet. Same with audiobooks. An audiobook is coming. I just can't do it yet.
Sure.
My brother-in-law told me he really wanted a map for Song of Bones, but like you're saying, then I would have to commit. This is where that is. This is where that is. Maybe later.
And then go through the story. Southwest is not the direction that you said it was, and you took a pee here, and that's actually in a different forest. And
yeah. I have it in my head pretty good directions, but I don't want to name 100 things right now.
I would think that too until like the map came along, and I was just like, God, I've never been so backwards. That's how my writing started, and that's what intimidated me and kind of pushed me more into asking. And I was kind of touching on your comment, Tim McKay. You're like, normally we talk about writing well, you've been on the channel a few times. And
Yeah.
I think that if we did that, everybody's kind of recognized. And I think that you went into detail about the right things this time.
Fair.
And what that does is kind of just show even more personal insight to not only what you're doing and your work, but it's helping people learn to the possibilities of what they could do with their work. So first, congratulations. I was long-winded there. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Congratulations on your release, man. It's epically awesome.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's been a
100%.
fun day. It's been, just the support from people, the early reviews starting to come in, and just, anyways, it's been fun to watch. This community is so awesome. I love you guys so much. Appreciate it.
It's incredible, dude. And you're a part of that community as well. So we're talking about you when we say it as well. So remember that.
Cheers.
The lessons that I continue to learn from people, and I love it. So I wanted to thank Tim, Timothy, the other Tim, and Isaac for being here, because, well, I think this is a very important date, and celebrating somebody's a book was birthed today.
Yeah, it was an honor. I really, I'm honored by this invitation. So thank you, Tim. It means a lot to me.
It means a lot that you're doing.
Thanks
to be here,
for
man.
having me. It's
oh yeah,
it's cool.
Of course. Anytime,
you guys have been here for the journey, so I really appreciate you being here at not the end of it, but
Yeah,
The beginning.
We're just on the right.
Here at the beginning.
Yeah, here at the beginning, the real beginning. Let's call it that.
The start of each one of ours, like personal, whatever you have, always has those people that were there along with you right at the beginning, and that's what I would say encompasses this chat, and that's wonderful. It's very, very, very cool. So thank you, Tim and Isaac. This has been fun, and hardly ever do I go this long. So that means it was a wonderful conversation full of wonderful facts. So we will talk. I don't think I have, maybe I do. I have shit for brains, so I'll post it on X about my interview tomorrow. All of you that were live, first and foremost, thank you so much. Your comments tonight were on a whole other level, and I mean that. I don't remember, or it maybe has never happened, the kind of comments that have come in tonight. So incredible. Thank you guys so much. You guys make it as fun as it is. Those of you that didn't catch that replay, thank you as well. Like, share, subscribe, share all that YouTube stuff, because it doesn't just help the channel. It helps the authors I have on, the illustrators, the editors. So yeah, do the part. And I think that each and every person I have on the channel deserves that. So we will talk next time, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful night, evening, morning, wherever you're at. And we'll see you next time.
You too. Good night, everyone.
Cheers,
Night,
everyone.
guys.
Night.
And buy the book.
Yeah.
Buy multiple.
Yeah, get
Buy
7.
it again when it has the Illustrator cover.
Get one for your kids and their friends and stuff.
There's paperback, ebook, hardcover. The next thing.
Yeah, buy all of each one, each format.
Think of it this way: the one you're getting right now, exclusive. It is not going to be around forever. And I mean
that.
Like,
yes,
I'm in love with this, especially the hardcover. The hardcover has been selling like mad, and I love it. Like, it's.
I wanted to tell you, I would have had the hardcover out because I do have that as well, but it's put in my box, packed away to go into the other recording studio.
Nice.
So I broke this bad boy out that I'm equally as proud of. Anyway, the links are below, guys, in the description. I believe there's everything there that you'll need. I do want Tim McKay, if you would, after this, send me Joe Requeza, is how you say it?
Yeah,
link,
absolutely.
To his portfolio, whatever it is, so I can put that below as well.
Will do.
Awesome. All right, guys. We will talk later. Have a great night, guys.
Cheers, everyone.